every revolution. There is a moment of silence, a discovery, a breakthrough, a spark of something that could change everything. And then, nothing. No celebration, no rollout, no headlines. Just disappearance. Tonight, we're investigating a dangerous idea. What if some of history's greatest inventions never failed? They were simply never allowed to succeed. Imagine a locked archive room, dust-covered boxes, unpublished patents, confiscated notes, forgotten prototypes. History is not just written by winners, it is curated by gatekeepers. For every invention that shaped civilization, how many were buried? How many breakthroughs were labeled impossible before they were inconvenient? To understand this pattern, we must start with one of the most mysterious minds in modern history. Nikola Tesla was not just an inventor. He was a futurist, decades ahead of his era. Alternating current systems, radio transmission concepts, remote control devices, wireless communication. But his most radical idea was this: energy should be free. Not free as in no cost to produce, but free to access once infrastructure existed. In 1901, he began building the Wardenclyffe Tower. The goal: to transmit electricity wirelessly through the Earth's natural conductivity. Tesla believed the planet itself could function as a conductor. If successful, energy could be transmitted globally. Imagine cities without power lines, remote villages instantly electrified. No centralized grid control. That idea alone threatened every existing utility model. At first, Tesla had funding. J.P. Morgan invested $150,000, an enormous sum at the time. But Morgan believed Tesla was building a global wireless communication system. When Tesla revealed he also intended to transmit power freely, Morgan allegedly asked, "Where do we put the meter?" That question revealed everything. If energy cannot be measured, it cannot be built. And if it cannot be built, it cannot be controlled. Funding vanished. Construction halted. Wardenclyffe became a skeleton of possibility. By 1917, it was demolished, officially for war scrap. Unofficially, an idea had become too disruptive. Tesla died alone in 1943. Within hours, the U.S. Office of Alien Property seized his research. Why the urgency? Because Tesla had been working on what he called a teleforce weapon, later nicknamed a death ray by newspapers. Was it real? Was it theoretical? We don't know. Some documents were reviewed by electrical engineer John G. Trump. Yes, that Trump family. It's concluded there was nothing immediately practical. But here's the key detail. Not all documents were publicly released. Some were classified. And classification always raises a question. What was worth hiding? Tesla is not alone. Let's explore a pattern. Case 1. The water-powered car myth. Over decades, inventors have claimed engines running primarily on water. Most were debunked due to basic chemistry. Separating hydrogen requires more energy than it produces. But the persistence of the claim reveals something deeper. People instinctively believe revolutionary energy breakthroughs are possible, and when they disappear, suspicion grows. Case 2. Cold fusion, 1989. When two chemists announced cold fusion, nuclear-level energy at room temperature, it triggered global excitement. For real, it would mean nearly limitless clean energy. No radioactive waste, no fossil fuel dependency. Within months, replication attempts failed publicly. Funding evaporated. Reputations collapsed. But here's what most people don't know. Research never fully stopped. Today, it continues under the term low-energy nuclear reactions. Still controversial. Still unexplained. Still not mainstream. Now we move from mystery to analysis. Innovation does not exist in a vacuum. It exists inside markets, governments, militaries, corporations. When an invention enhances existing systems, it spreads. When it destabilizes them, resistance appears. History shows this repeatedly. Oil replaced whale oil, not because it was suppressed, but because it was profitable. Digital photography eventually replaced film, even though companies like Kodak hesitated. The difference? Digital photography could be monetized. Free energy systems. That's different. The global energy market is worth trillions. A disruption of that magnitude isn't just technological, it's geopolitical. There's a tension in human civilization. Progress increases freedom. Control maintains order. Some technologies increase central control. Surveillance systems, centralized banking networks, digital tracking. These spread rapidly. Others, decentralized power, peer-to-peer systems, off-grid energy, independent manufacturing. These often face regulatory resistance. Is that conspiracy? A structural self-preservation? The answer may be less dramatic and more systemic. Institutions protect themselves, not out of villainy, out of inertia. Why are we drawn to stories of suppressed inventions? Because they combine mystery, power imbalance, lost potential, okay? They tap into a universal fear that something transformative exists, and we are not allowed to have it. But there's also a psychological bias at play. We assume revolutionary ideas must exist, and if we don't see them, we assume they're hidden. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they simply don't work. The truth often lies between extremes. Consider this. What if revolutionary technology isn't suppressed forever, but delayed strategically? Governments classify technologies routinely. Military research often becomes civilian decades later. GPS was once military only. The internet began as ARPANET. So perhaps the question isn't, is technology hidden? But rather, when is it released? And who decides? Maybe the invention that disappeared isn't a machine. Maybe it's transparency. Maybe what vanishes isn't technology, but public access. Power determines visibility, okay? And visibility determines belief. If something is never funded, never covered, never amplified, did it ever exist at all? Somewhere in an archive, in a basement laboratory, in an unfinished notebook? There may be equations that could change the world. Or maybe the real breakthrough isn't hidden. It's still waiting to be discovered. History is not just about what survives, it's about what disappears. And sometimes what disappears matters the most. This is the lost truth, and the next invention to vanish may already exist.